I am so thankful to be here. I'm feeling a little emotional too about it. I think Sarah just walked away. Hopefully she's still here because as we close out, I think that, the last 3 days have been just magical. The energy in this room is amazing. The people, the women, you are all incredible and have made such an impression on me. And we couldn't have done it without Sarah and her team. So let's give her a round of applause as we finish our time together out. Okay. So I am a miracle. I am a miracle. I met a woman just a few weeks ago and told her my story, and she goes, "Christina, you're a miracle." And it woof, it hit me. I am very fortunate to be here to share what I hope is a little inspiration, because you're all miracles. Each one of you here is a miracle. And I am no different than anybody here. I am an example of what's possible. I'm hoping that today that I can call you to become the miracle that you deserve to be. Because you are in charge of your life. You have the ability to become whoever it is that you want. Now, let's go back. April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day. Where you play like jokes on people. Well, this was no joke. April Fool's Day 2019, I had just finished a workshop. It was my first leadership development workshop. It was called Your Extraordinary Life. Oh, it wasn't called that, but I lost it. I blame it on the chemotherapy, but it was called Lead Your Extraordinary Life. I had been working in corporate for about 30 years. As Sarah said, I worked for Martha Stewart for 20 of them. I finished at Fast Company. Fast Company and Inc. Merged the business offices together, and I got exiled, and all the men took over. But that's another keynote. And a woman called me shortly thereafter who had worked for me, and she had been out ill from work. She was on taking leave. And she said, "I was finally feeling better, and you're one of the first phone calls I'm making because I need to let you know that you changed my life, both professionally and personally. And why aren't you a coach?" It was sort of like the permission I needed. So I was going to dip my toe. I did this incredible workshop. It was 5 hours, incredible women just like you. And I knew that this was something I was meant to do. It felt electric. And at the same time, this is a little light. Let's go like this. Okay, so where was I? So, wonderful experience leading this workshop. And at the same time, I didn't feel well. For the previous couple months, I was getting knives, the feeling of knives at the bottom of my soles. And I'd be in the car and I'd be stomping them out. And a week before the workshop, I went to a dentist and said, "I think I'm having teeth problems." And he said, "No, your teeth are fine. I think you should go see a doctor." But what do us high achievers do? We power through. I powered through. So that afternoon, April Fool's Day, I went and had a blood test. And I got in to see a doctor. He was my mom's doctor for many, many years. And he looked at my results and he said, "Looks like you have the virus, but I need to get some more testing done. Go downstairs, get some more blood drawn, and come back tomorrow." So I did just that. And by the time I got home, I only lived about a mile from the doctor's office. By the time I got home, I didn't even put my purse on the table. And the phone rang. And it wasn't the office. It wasn't the nurse. It was the doctor. And he said, "Christina, this is a lot more serious than we first thought. You need to come back right now." It was 4:30 in the afternoon. What doctor? works at 4:30 in the afternoon. He says, you got to come back right now and we got to give you a bone marrow biopsy. What is a bone marrow biopsy? So my husband went with me. We went back to the doctor's office. They prepped me for the procedure. And so I was laying face down. Bone marrow biopsies, they take it out of your hip with a very long needle, very scary. I'm laying on the examination table, getting prepped. My butt is right out there. And as I was laying there, I could see my husband. The only thing I could really see was my husband. And when the doctor walked in, he walked by me and he said, Christina, you have acute myeloid leukemia. And I was looking at my husband and all I could see were these just crocodile tears. And my husband, I had just married him 8 months before. I had been a single mom for 16 years and was just hopeful that I would find my soulmate. And I had. And all I could see was like that anguish on his face. So I said, butt out, what does acute mean? And he said, Christina, your body is in crisis. It's rebelling against itself. And we need to admit you into the hospital as soon as possible. And by the grace of God, you know, my family, my friends, they all gathered around me within minutes, seriously. And I got into Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. I was admitted into the ER hours later, and I was critical. I'd lost use of my limbs. I really didn't have control over a lot at that point, and I knew I was not feeling well. And you can imagine your family's standing around you. You could see the whites of their eyes. Dr. Park walked in. Dr. Park. He said, you don't come to Memorial Sloan Kettering to be treated. And he said 5 words that changed my life. He said, you come to Memorial Sloan Kettering to be cured. You come to MSK to be cured. Game on. Game fucking on. I can say that, right, Sarah? Game on. It was like, it was a launch for me. Like this was the launch of my post-traumatic growth. It was, cancer's a funny thing, in a minute, your world stops. And at the same time, it's speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. So they also tell you, if you can survive the first month, for me, it was about 36 days. If you can survive the first period in the hospital, then you'll go into treatment. And it's some of the most aggressive chemotherapy out there. The first round, it's 2 different types of chemotherapy. And the side effects are just debilitating. But I had a lot of time to think. And remember, we are high achievers. So what was I going to do with all this free time? Sitting there, right, getting all these drips. And so I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to think about my success. I had a lot of time to think about the story I was telling myself about success. And what I realized in the hospital was that that story was just a story. I had never questioned whether or not that story of success was something that I had written or whether somebody else had written it. So I was like most of you. I was a high achiever. I was driven by achievement, accomplishment, recognition. A couple other things though. When I was raised by an incredible woman. I mean, she broke some of those shards of glass out of that glass ceiling. She worked on Wall Street, but she worked as an event planner. And like my senior year in high school, she traveled 50 weeks out of the year. So I was taking care of myself. I took care of my brother. We had some food insecurity. There wasn't a lot of money. Had to get a job early, 11 years old. I was washing dishes at a local Italian restaurant. They became my second family though. So I was always achieving, right? And I was always vigilant. In fact, I was hyper vigilant and I was hyper responsible. You know that pendulum, right? So when I look back at all of the times where I had the most stress in my life, It really coincided with health struggles. Early in my 30s, I had early stage cervical cancer. Several years after that, I had a growth in my uterus, so I had to have a hysterectomy. I believe that stress is an accelerant. And in my hypervigilance, and hyper responsibility, I didn't take care of myself. I was taking care of everybody else. So I worked for Martha Stewart for 20 years. I want to share with you some lessons that I learned that really helped me understand the journey for my second half, my second best half, my back nine that I'm playing right now, that is so much more fulfilled, peaceful, joyful than when I was working in the corporate world. So I worked for Martha, as Sarah said, for 20 years. I was publisher of a couple of her magazines. I launched 23 of her media brands. In the last 10 years, I saw 6 management teams, revolving doors. Some were let go, some left on their own. And I was always sort of in a number 2 position, right? Not even sure if I could ever get to that number 1 position. But I was the one who was always having to train everybody. Just go to Christina. Just go to Christina. I was very hyper responsible. And it manifested in a lot of ways that today I see so much differently. Let me tell you about when I started, because this is sort of fun. First week, I was sitting in an office, not my own office. It was somebody else's, but they didn't have a desk for me. It was a very small team. I think I was employee number 9, full-time employee number 9. And I heard these, oh, I wish I could do it better than that, stomping feet that was coming back into the sales and marketing nook where I was sitting in the office. But I can hear this voice. Who did this? This is not right. This is not my brand. This is unacceptable. So what do? I leaned out of the office and I was like, "Hi, I'm Christina." And she said, "Did you do this?" And I was like, "No, it's my first week." And she, in a very stern voice, said, "If you're going to work for me, you're going to know my brand and you're going to know how to share it." She had been holding up advertiser premiums, gifts that we would give to our clients. And she put those gifts down as quickly as she picked them up. She turned around, walked the other way. That was my first meeting. And it was interesting because just a week later, I got a phone call, and it was Martha's assistant. And she said, "Martha wants you to meet the assistant editor, Lisa Wagner, down at the Union Square Farmers Market in the city, in New York." And I said, "Okay." And I go to my boss. I'm like, "I don't know." And, "Well, if Martha says, you got to go." So I, showed up in my work outfit, my heels, to the farmer's market, met Lisa, and Lisa's like, "Yeah, we are looking for pears." "Okay." She's like, "We probably want to get like 2 or 3 bushels of pears." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. They need to be of good size and they need to be shiny. So we have to clean them to see if they have the shine that we want. And yeah, we want green, but really we want them to have lots of colors. We want a little brown, a little orange, a little red. It's got to have a stem. And ideally, we want to get them with a leaf on the stem." Okay. And me being very hyper vigilant, I took it very seriously. So I got back to the office. I mean, you can imagine I was like head to toe with dirt in my nails. It was all in my nails. But we got the pears. And I would get these phone calls like every so often to go to the felt store to learn about something in the prop room. You should Google that prop room. It's amazing. Go to the paper store. Loved paper stores. And I realized that I was going through Martha University. I didn't need to go get my MBA. I was working inside of one of the most creative enterprises that there was at the time. It was such an incredible gift. So I want to share with you these 7 lessons that I learned that really helped me as I redefined my definition of success. I've asked a few of you, hold up your hands. I've asked a few of you, have I asked you what your definition for personal success is? It's so interesting. A lot of you said That's a good question. We are here today to reconsider what we consider to be success, to be what we want to achieve in our life that is not measured by output, but how we are feeling. So the first lesson is always be learning. Martha said to me in those first few weeks of working for her, she said, Christina, go learn something new every day and go share it with somebody else. And it's been a personal motto. I love learning. I try to learn every day. But I love that I want to go share it with other people. I want to live in service. I had a meeting with a client last week, and he is developing an ecosystem for his brand. And I took to him the first annual report of Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia. And I was showing him this beautiful visual that's in that report. And then I reread the letter, Martha's letter. And at the bottom of it, it said, go learn something new every day and go teach it to somebody else. So it just reminded me that learning is so important. But what's the most important learning? It's about learning about yourself. I had in the hypervigilance, I had in the achievement, the accomplishment, the recognition, I had lost sight of who I was. I'd lost sight of who it was that I wanted to become. And I needed to, in the hospital, really decide, like when everything's at risk, right? What are the risks that I really want to take? Because nothing's risky at that point. And I decided that I was going to live a life that looked very, very differently, that I was going to live in service of others. I'm now a CEO coach. I help them scale their businesses by scaling their mind. I have another company, a second company, where I help teams leverage their awareness and imagination to accelerate performance. But it took me a long time to get there. The second lesson is, this is interesting. We've been talking about perfectionism. So Martha believes that average is unacceptable and that excellence is expected. Now, yes, we want to live an excellent life, but your definition of excellence is different than mine, different than anybody that you're sitting next to, and it's different than Martha. You got to figure out what your excellence is. But here's where to start. What are you settling for? I settled on myself over again, and over again. I was settling on not spending time with my kids. I was settling on not enough vacations. The day after I got married to the love of my life, my soulmate who sent me this picture of a Wonder Woman as I was walking up here, I went to Cannes the next day on a business trip. Oh my goodness. So where are we settling? Every one of us is settling someplace. We want to start to get intentional, deliberate, and consistent about how we are showing up for ourselves. IDC, intentional, deliberate, and consistent. To ensure that we aren't settling, we want to check ourselves. Where we spend our time, the wonderful time architect that she did such a great job yesterday in that workshop. Where are we spending our time? The research says, the Pareto principle says that 20% of what we do, ladies, has 80% impact. That's amazing. But then conversely, 80% of what we do only has 20% of the impact. So us high achievers, we want to be figuring out what is that 20%? Because when you are in your zone of genius, when you are doing more of what you love, what you're good at, guess what? You're going to have more impact and you're going to have more time for yourself, for that freedom. Lots of you told me that your personal definition of success was freedom. I work with clients on the 80% because people say, well, I still need to get that work done. Well, of course you do, but I work with them to add. I work with them to automate, delete, and delegate. I had to delete so many things from my life that were actually anchors. In my discovery process, I had to learn that less was more. Okay. And I have to check myself on it, right? I want to talk quickly about a mindfulness practice. That intention that we had earlier was so incredible. I actually had tears. Having a mindfulness practice is really the difference between success or not. That's my opinion. But the research shows that when we have a mindfulness practice, it reduces our stress by 28%. Like, wouldn't you take those odds? If I could reduce my stress by a quarter, right, with a mindfulness practice that doesn't have to be longer than 5 or 10 minutes a day. Get off the doom scroll, right? It's the same amount of time. What's even more important about the research from University of California, it says that when we have a mindfulness practice, we are more focused. So if we're more by 40%, it increases focus by 40%. So if we're more focused and less stressed, think about what we can achieve, right? Okay. So my mindfulness practice starts with 3 questions. What's working? Always go to the positive. We never want to highlight like what we did good. But in your journal, for me, my mindfulness practice is a writing practice because I love to write. Your mindfulness practice can be yours. It can be meditation. It can be equine therapy. It can be music. Mine is a writing practice. I ask, what's working? Got to start with the positive, even though it's so hard to recognize ourselves for all the good that we're doing. Then I ask what's not working, not from shame, not from blame. It's all about development. It's all about personal improvement. And then the third question is, what do I want to be doing differently? Oof. Again, it's not about shame or blame. That differently is you seeing new possibility from where you are right now. The third lesson is your brand is how you make people feel. Martha Stewart wanted you to go through the supermarket, and when you went through the newsstand, she wanted that cover to jump off of the newsstand. She wanted to bring you in to feel something. She wanted you to feel that you were sitting at that 4th of July picnic. She wanted you to feel the sunlight from the photograph. She wanted you to be able to taste the watermelon. Feeling was something that was so important to her. How do you make people feel? In the hospital, I had plenty of time to think about how I was making people feel. You could probably guess. I was, how I was showing up with a bunch of feelings like stress, worry, doubt, lacking confidence, anxious. Ooh, I had it all. And, some of my best friends today are people that I worked with them. And they still make fun of me for my walk. They could, in Martha on our 26th Street offices in New York, we all had cement floors, so you could hear everybody coming. But apparently my walk, it was a little bit more determined. I mean, you could imagine people were like, oh, here she comes. Because my vibe was a little bit negative. And energy is contagious. So think about what I was doing to the people that I loved so much that I worked with. I was setting off a vibe that was probably creating more stress for them. So when you are reimagining your definition of success, what is the vibe you want to have? Your vibe are feelings. So feelings are energy. Energy creates a vibration. And your vibe is your value. Erin King, whose researches energy, she coined that. Your vibe is your value. I am very disciplined now, intentional, deliberate, and consistent about my vibe. And I hope she's here. I traveled with a gal from the airport coming in, and we had never met each other. And I said, "Oh, let's grab a cab together." And she said, your feeling is very grounded. And I was like, wow, I love it. I'm doing something right. I have my definition for success, my rewrite for my definition of success is successful, full of more joy, ease, and impact. Now, if you know anything about me, Ease does not come naturally, but it's something that I want to work on every single day, because when I have ease, I'm more creative. And when I'm more creative, I have more impact. So I'm really diligent about asking what worked, what didn't work, what do I want to do differently in terms of my definition of success. What vibe do you want to have? We want to be intentional about the vibe. Fill it with feelings. I'm loving the feeling triumphant. And if you want a list of feelings, oh, I have a good one. I want to feel triumphant. I want to feel blessed. I want to feel vibrant. Okay. So the fourth is surround yourself with people who are better than you. You know, inside of this group here, whoa, the people that we are surrounded with, they're giving, they're intentional. You can feel the energy in this room. Remember that if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Martha hired Isolde Motley and Gail Towie as the first editors of Martha Stewart Living. And they were just brilliance walking. I mean, I could just, my jaw would be open just listening to them. It was, again, an MBA in excellence. And they hired really good people who hired really good people who hired really good people. So why hiring is so important. When we sit next to someone who's a high performer, our performance goes up by 15%. When we sit next to lower performers, our performance goes down by 35%, right? So the fifth lesson is living on purpose, not on default. Live on purpose. Martha Stewart Living was a new brand. It was a new category of magazine at the time. She wanted people to be inspired and informed. She wanted them to aspire. She wanted to raise the art of homekeeping. And she lived it and breathed it every day. Look at her hands. The next time you see her, look at her hands. Her hands are not so good. It's because they've been in the dirt. They've gotten it all done. She does all the stuff you see. She lives very, very intentionally. She plans her gardens out years in advance. That's her. Doesn't work for everybody. But what I know is that the first place to look for living on purpose is where you're living on default. Ooh, I was busy. I lived on default of busy over and over and over again. Where are you showing up in default? Are we defaulting to the doom scroll on our phone? Are we defaulting to the 30 emails that have to get answered at some point? But when we live on default, then we are not being intentional, right? That treadmill every day, we have got to take back our agency of who we are becoming. So I told you my mindfulness practice is what worked, what didn't work, what will I do differently. I also answer every single day. The question is, who am I becoming? It's like in that one question, it's like a personal development class. Who am I becoming? Stop waiting for your future. Why not rehearse it every single day? Who you are becoming is a way of actually putting yourself out in the future. Once you know who you are becoming, who you want to become for your whole life success, you can begin reverse engineering for it. What decisions do I have to make today to ensure I become that person I deserve to be? We spend more time planning our vacations, the research shows, than we do planning our future. What is the future that you want to have? Who am I becoming? It is such a great question to answer. And some days you'll answer it easily, and some days it'll be hard. That's why you have to keep answering it. But not answering it has you staying in wait. Start rehearsing for that future today. Okay. Now see, I knew it was going to happen. I blame it on the chemotherapy. I'm forgetting. 5 did that. Oh, this is my favorite. The sixth lesson is believing in yourself. This is the biggest struggle I still have in this moment up here talking to you ladies. But Martha Stewart's the poster child for believing in yourself. She believed she should go to a really good college, but her family didn't have a lot of money. So she believed that she could put herself through Barnard College in New York City with a modeling career. And she just went and had headshots and she started getting jobs. Martha believed that after she had that really great education, she believed that she belonged on Wall Street. This is 1967. And I'm sure you can understand when I tell you that she didn't believe she should be an assistant. She wanted to be a stockbroker. 1967. So incredible. She believed in the Martha Stewart living brand, a lifestyle brand to inform and inspire the art of homekeeping. She sold this idea of a brand to Time Inc. And then when she started publishing it and she saw the possibility, she got into possible. What if I could share this everywhere? So she wanted to start a television program. She went to Time Inc. and said, I want to get on TV. And they said, oh, no, we are a publishing company. And so she said, as only Martha could do, how much money would it cost me to buy back my brand? And they laughed. I bet they regret that now. They laughed and they said $70 million. So she believed. She was doing a small line of sheets and towels at Kmart at the time. So she went to Kmart and said, I've got big plans and I want to do so much more for Kmart. I want to do it exclusively for you. We're going to have hundreds of SKUs. And guess what? You're going to pay me in advance for sales. Can you do that? And you can imagine how much money she asked Kmart for. $70 million. It's really incredible. You don't hear some of these stories in the documentary. Martha also believed in herself when she was convicted of a felony. She was not convicted of insider trading. She was convicted for lying to the FBI. She believed that when she didn't have to go to jail right away. She could have stayed out on appeal, but the company was in a very big downward spiral, and she knew she had to get there quickly if she was going to be able to save it. But she believed that she could build her company back to profitability in under 2 years. It was incredible, and we did it. She is the biggest believer I know. I mean, think about it. At 83 years old, she just published her 100th cookbook, It's book. And who would have thought? Like Snoop Dogg, right? She is a believer. So I had to learn so much from her about belief in the stories that I had been telling myself, that I was insecure, that I only deserved the number 2 position, that I wasn't good enough. Belief starts by knowing you are enough just the way you are. You're enough when you forget the permission slips at school. You are enough when you lose patience with someone that you work with. You are enough even if you procrastinate, even if you're a little bit of a perfectionist. But don't label yourself, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a procrastinator. That just diminishes you. That's your identity. Don't shame that identity. You are beautiful just the way you are. When you know that you're enough, just the way you are sitting here today, that is the beginning of building belief. And that's something that I work on every single day. So in my mindfulness practice, what worked, what didn't work, what will I do differently, who am I becoming? I also write 10 statements of belief. 5 of them are who I am today. I am capable. I am committed. I am passionate. And 5 of them are believing in who I'm becoming. Sometimes I write that I'm a New York Times best-selling author because I think I got a second book in me. I believe in it. I'm building that belief. The seventh lesson is there's always a solution. Always, always, always a solution. So I'll tell you a funny, maybe not so fun story. But I sold television and I sold integrations, which are spots for advertisers that go into the run of show. Martha Stewart Living was, it was called The Martha Stewart Show. It was a syndicated program, aired at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. And I sold an integration to a ham company. I'm not going to tell you the name of the ham company, but they're known for their glaze. And I had to sell Martha on the idea that this was a good idea. And as you can imagine, Martha makes her own glaze and she makes her own hams. But we had written the script for her, and this was a very big program. It was more than just this one integration, but the integration was super important. So there we are, filming it, live studio audience, tables all set for Thanksgiving, big turkey, shiny ham. And Martha gets to that part in the script and she says, you know what, I really love my own glaze recipe. Oh, in that moment, I was like, I'm getting fired. It had been many, many years, but I thought this was it. And the show cut to commercial break. And the CMO, he was new to the role. He'd been there only a couple of months. We created this partnership together. And I was sitting in the third row. He was sitting in the second row. And commercial break, he got up from his seat and he charged at Martha. And remember, I told you I was a little hyper responsible. So I went charging right behind him. And literally, he was very aggressive. It was when I'd been at the television studio countless times. I knew there was security, but I never knew that they were packing heat. It was a moment. It was a real moment. And I was able to calmly remove him from the building with the security team. And then we went right to work because there's always a solution. And I went, coming back up, went right into Martha's office. She figured out what she'd done wrong. We sat around with the producers and we said, what could make this experience the best experience for that company? We came up with a long list of things that we were going to do on their behalf to not only make up for it, but to well beyond exceed for it, because excellence is something that we always strive for, even when we make mistakes. And so one of the things I want to leave you with is that we don't sit in possibility enough. Possibility is the gateway to who you are becoming. What's possible? What's my impossible possibility? You all have wonderful businesses, right? And we strategically plan. There's a place for it, but we strategically plan. We look at last year and we say, let's just do it a little bit better. 10%, 5%, whatever it is. And that is recreating the past just a little bit better. But when you think about possibility, you think about an extraordinary future. I'm going to double my business, 200%. Well, what's possible? What would be possible? Decide on your impossible possibility, on who you are becoming. If you want to spend more time with your children, if you want to put more money in the bank so you can create a freedom plan, anything's possible. Once you decide on that, then ask the question, what would be possible? What would need to be possible for that possibility to happen? Possibility, we have two superpowers. Awareness, and by the way, most of us proclaim, 82% of us proclaim that we are self-aware. And the research shows that we are only 12%. So when we build our own awareness and we work with our teams for them to become more aware of their strengths, weaknesses, capabilities, and capacities, we can more easily get into possibility. And when we get into possibility, we get into imagination. We are the only species, humans, who have imagination. We need to be spending more time in imagination, not doing the 80% work that's only giving us the 20% impact. So I'm so happy. Now is a good time to tell you. This is 6-year anniversary from my diagnosis. This in April, yay. I do feel like I'm a miracle. Only 1 in 4 survive. And I am blessed, so blessed, so blessed. And the work for me to do is to be intentional and deliberate and consistent about who I'm becoming. And I've put together a couple of lists that I think are important. I think we should all have them. I have a must-have list, and I have a never-again list. Okay, I'll tell you the must-haves. I must have work that brings me joy. I must make daily time to reflect and to get into possibility every single day. I must give myself permission to rest. And I must have the opportunity to serve both my clients and my community. Those are my must-haves. And I can check myself because remember, we get into the default mode network. We get into the default. When I do that, because I still do that, I pull out that list and I hold myself accountable to myself now. Whew, the never agains, those scrolls that you see like in the old movies, like that scroll right now would be rolling out like 2 miles. I have a long list of never agains. I will share 4 of them with you. So I will never again sacrifice my health for achievement. I hope you hear that. Reduce your stress. I will never again measure my self-worth by my output. I will never again compare my journey to somebody else's. And the last one, which is really the most important one for all of us, is that I will never again let fear make my decisions. Never again. I was so led by fear of insecurity my entire corporate career. And fear it's actually a really positive thing because more often than not, fear is actually your calling. Fear is actually the thing that's right here before you have your next life leap. You are all extraordinary individuals, and know that you are the biggest influencer in your life. And when you recognize your influence over you, it's a game changer. We got the social medias and the influencers and the socials, we all know this. And oftentimes we give over our agency to others. But the most important agency is right here. You are the biggest influencer in your life. You are the biggest influencer in your life. Recognize it. It will change everything for you. So I want to give you 5 words that hopefully will change your life. Success is an inside job. Success is an inside job. Take the time to workshop on yourself. Take your time when you leave here. I've got the bookmark that comes with the book. And there are some questions on there that you can answer. Go squire yourself away in someplace that's beautiful like this and workshop. Who are you becoming? Workshop through possibility. What if? Why not? Right? Possibility is a gateway to your future. Decide who you want to become and then reverse engineer for that. Couple things as I wrap up. On page 17 in the book is for success sake. And I'm doing this. Where's Andrea? I think she's here somewhere in that gorgeous suit with the bling. I'm doing my calls to action right now. Page 17. It's an exercise. It's called the tens. When you're workshopping for yourself, taking yourself to workshop on yourself, answer those questions. 6 questions. And if you answer each question 10 times, drop it in a Google document. I will make comments on it. I will poke you. I will have you explore a little bit further. That is your future if you see it, if you do it. 6 questions, 10 answers. I won't answer unless all 6 questions have 10 responses. It's hard. On the bookmark, you'll also see that there is a QR code on the front because I want to be dropping in to say hello every Sunday. I publish a newsletter. It's called Sunday Sunshine. I write it to beat the Sunday scaries. You know how we get anxious right before the week. And then on the backside is my other company where I work with teams to measure their awareness and imagination to create higher performing teams. So you can take that as well. It's a 5-minute assessment. So thank you. You are a miracle. Oh my God, I have one more. Well, I know I've got 3 minutes. Okay, it's on your workshop, right? We're going to go away for the day. We're going to workshop. We're going to answer the questions on the bookmark. We're going to ask ourselves, where are we settling? We are going to decide where we want to be more intentional, deliberate, and consistent. We are going to fill our rewrite, our redefinition of success. We're going to fill it with so many wonderful feelings that we want to feel. And at the other side of that, after you've done the tens exercise, on the other side of that, I want you to write a letter to yourself. 365 days out. This is April. If you're going to do it tomorrow on the plane ride, April 29th. Looking back, reflecting on all the things that you've worked on, all the things that you're celebrating, that you've brought into your life, all of the feelings that have changed, all of the wonders that you've experienced over the past year. Make it a long letter. Make it measurable. Make it emotional. Make it to you. You know, we would never break a promise to any of our kids. We consistently break promises to ourselves. In your letter to your future, remind yourself that you are the biggest influencer in your life and that you're not going to break any more promises. We're not settling ever again. Write that letter, and then I'll invite you to read your letter every month, because that is your future calling. That is who you deserve to be. It's the miracle that you deserve to be. So thank you very much. I'm so glad to have been here. It has been a joy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God. You're